taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This is Augmented Reality,
Presented by the Triple S League.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, insights, and analysis about games in the gaming industry for June 17th, 2020, Wednesday edition of the show. My name is Ash, and I'm here as always with Cybsidian. Apologies for the late start. We had some Cyberpunk 2077 news drop literally minutes before our live time, so we had to look into that. And
minutes before, seconds before, it was crazy
it was
close.
Nuts. It's always fun when that happens. But anyway, we'll be discussing
and I got a
that.
little bit of my German into practice. It was great.
You may have noticed the title change right before we went live, so that gives you a bit of a peek into what we'll be talking about. Plus, we'll be talking about a lot of games that our community is curious about and some other interesting news stories. So sit tight, stay tuned, grab some popcorn or whatever you like to munch on, and thanks for joining us, especially if you're listening live and in the live chat. It is great to see you all. Yes, all right, so let's just get right into it, because as always, our time is limited on Wednesdays. But just before we went live, we were notified by the Neon Arcade of something rather cool. A little preview snippet of the World of Cyberpunk 2077 lore book it appeared on Reddit. Now, we don't know where this came from. We're not entirely sure the legitimacy of it, so we're not going to show it on the screen right now.
It's like the info seems to be pretty legit.
Yeah, it looks very legit. But we also we want to make sure that
it's also coming from one of the main distributors in Germany for it. So yeah, but again, it's like we're not going to show anything directly because, well, I mean, this looks like it's sort of like copyrighted.
Well, it is. Well, it's obviously copyrighted, so we don't know if this was an authorized, like, hey, you can leak this little preview snippet. What it is, it looks like a poster with several pages, like two full spreads and then one sort of like full page ad, like an in Cyberpunk universe ad, not like an ad for the game or anything, but.
Mm-hmm.
So this full-page ad plus a couple of full-page spreads from inside the book. That looks like what we're looking at, and it's all in German, except for that full-page ad that I was telling you about. That's in English for some reason. So
it's because it's an art asset, so of course it's in English.
Yeah. So it's anyway. So you don't think they're going to localize like the in-game ads for various markets?
No, the book that is literally somebody's work of art.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna like change their work of art for it to be. It's not like it's like a pop-up bubble of like thoughts, from Charlie Brown, and they're just translating that. No, that's like hand-drawn like texts there. It's like
right, but if it's an in-game art asset.
It's not. I don't think that's an in-game art asset. I think that's an art asset for the book.
Okay. In any case, yeah. So there's an ad for Budget Arms, and then there's an ad for a company called More that says Body Without Limits. The Neon Arcade was saying he thinks that might be a new corporation in the Cyberpunk world because he'd never heard of it before. So yeah, so our info on this is thin. We're not 100% sure. Again, it looks like it's probably legit, but was it legitimately released, or did somebody leak this? We're not sure, so just be careful.
It's definitely not on the German site, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that yes, it's most likely
anyway,
not supposed to be there.
Probably not. But I mean, no idea if they're going to take it down or not, but you can check it out. Posted by Esoterica on Reddit, and the post is called Little Snippet into the World of Cyberpunk book from GameStar. World of Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out at the end of July. I have different sites that are selling the book have different release dates. Might have to do with time zones and things, but July 28th or 29th, it looks like. At least the English version is coming out. And then, Saib, you said the German site was listing the 20th or something?
Yeah, 20th of
so it looks like
July.
It might be coming out different on different days in different markets. But anyway, so yeah, that was an interesting little thing that dropped. So if you want to sneak peek at that book, you can check that out. And again, if this turns out to be fully legitimate and they're okay with us talking about it, we might dive into it a little deeper and and do a video or show it on the next podcast, something like that. All right. Anyway, some other interesting things to talk about today. There's a lot of games. I mean, I'm sure I have seen 200 at least new games announced over the last week. I mean, it's been insane how much is going on. All of the online events that are replacing E3. So, of course, impossible to cover everything, but we are keeping our eye on the ones that you are most interested in. So we're going to be talking about Mafia Definitive Edition today. We're going to be talking about Solasta. We're going to be talking about Evil Genius 2 and a few others. Just a couple of sort of interest stories before we dive into that, though. According to this website called apnews.com, that's not the Associated Press, is it? It's just, anyway, this is called apnews.com. FDA approves video game for treating ADHD in kids. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has for the first time approved a video game for treating attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in children. The FDA said Monday that the game built by Boston-based Akili Interactive Labs can improve attention function. This game, called Endeavor RX, requires a prescription and is designed for children ages 8 to 12 with certain symptoms of ADHD. It's the first time that the FDA has cleared a digital therapy for improving ADHD symptoms. They looked at multiple studies involving more than 600 kids, and a video of the game shows a character traveling a race course-like path on a hoverboard. And apparently it includes sensory and motor tasks designed to help the player improve cognitive functioning. So, there you go. Interesting. Video game actually being prescribed for a medicative purpose. Very, very, very interesting. All right, and then there was one other story we were going to talk about. Not sure if we should give it the. Yeah, let's talk about this briefly. So, as a lot of you are aware, The Last of Us Part 2 has been getting rave reviews, at least if you trust the numbers on Metacritic. Ladiesman727 saying, link please. Are you talking about the Reddit or the CDC? Anyway, so Last of Us Part 2 getting lots of rave reviews, if you believe the Metacritic numbers. Now, the opinions about the game are far from unanimous. There's a lot of unscored reviews that are not casting the game in a terribly good light. So it's the scored reviews that are averaging out to a 96 score on Metacritic. But Alana Pierce, who's a former IGN employee, posted a video talking about all of this and giving some insight into what these perfect reviews are all about. She explained some interesting, useful things. Recommend checking out the video. It was posted in our Discord server. But sort of some of the highlights from it. So, getting a score of 100 from an outlet like IGN doesn't mean that they think it's a perfect game. According to their own sort of definition of a 100 scored game, that means it's a masterpiece game. So they think it's a masterpiece, and that's their opinion. Alana is insistent that she believes that the reviewers who are reviewing this game are giving their honest opinion, and they are more afraid of backlash from readers than from game publishers. So that's her perspective as someone who has worked in the industry for a long time and used to work specifically for IGN. She knows some of the people involved there. She knows the guy who wrote the Last of Us 2 review for IGN. So some interesting insight there. Now, granted, she's got her own perspectives and biases, of course, as we all do. So definitely, I think it's worth thinking critically about this kind of perspective too, even from an industry insider, because she does say at one point in the video that if what we want is integrity and honesty from games journalists, that we have to stop basically harassing them when they say things we don't like. Which I both agree with and disagree with. Because
the language is a little weird there.
The language is weird there, because do you mean harassment like if they're being like attacked, doxxed, that kind of thing? Of course that's unacceptable. But if you mean receiving criticism for what you've put out there, then no, that's fair game. You put your work out on the internet, you put yourself on Twitter, you say things, you're open to people criticizing you and essentially calling you an idiot. Happens to us all the time. So it's if she means like actual like criminal harassment or whatever the actual definition of that is, like if you're being confronted in public, or someone tries to dox you or do something bad to you, of course that's unacceptable. But if it's just receiving criticism for what you wrote, even somebody just calling you an idiot for what you wrote, well, no, that's kind of fair game if you're putting your work online. So yeah, not entirely sure what she means by that. So it's hard to say if I fully agree or disagree. But anyway, some good insight in there. But Cyb, you had some opinions about this too, in that like she kind of debunked the idea, or she insisted that no, there's no paying off of reviewers happening, and I would agree with that. I don't think that's happening in terms of direct bribes or anything like that. But
see, you and I clearly differ on this.
Well,
I know that there's open bribes and that there are open favors exchanged. And at first it was really kind of like, hey buddy, you're my friend. We're both like, some cases, some of these people, like if this first became an issue, some of these people came from the same like colleges and classes. Like some of them were in the same classes. And they just found themselves in these positions. And there is a lot of favors that are exchanged in the professional world. I mean, a ton of them. Like, it's something that's like super, 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 super common. So,
exchanging favors, sure. But I mean, if you're talking about a game company or, somebody from that company directly bribing a good review out of somebody, that would be a massive scandal. And
yeah, it was the first like 30, 40, 100 times that it was exposed. Like this has been an issue that's been going on for years. Like years and years. I mean, it was reliably documented that people were exchanging like not just like professional favors, but like personal favors, if you know what I mean. Bouncer wow. Well, it's like this stuff has been around for a really long time, and again, part of it started by the fact that a lot of these people just knew each other.
Well, yeah,
and there's people were doing things for each other in a professional capacity, which I don't want to get caught up on the wordplay, and this is kind of like devolving into kind of a wordplay thing. They were professionals working for professional companies that were doing things for each other as a, hey buddy, can you help me out with this thing kind of thing. Oh, sure. Like if you're wanting to know, did such and such company write a check to X company for $10,000 to get a good review? No, not very often, but things were often like, hey, here's some stuff, or here's special access. Hey, can you get this to really get moved on this needle here and that needle there, and then we want to push this over here. It's like there's a lot of those kind of, I mean, those favors are still the primary source of favors done for anything.
Oh, sure.
And so when Alana says that this isn't the case. It's laughably incorrect because I know several journalists who have left the industry because they were told, hey, so and so is giving us a lot of money to make sure that this thing turns out the way that we want it to turn out, and you need to make sure that this gets a particular grade or that this particular story is put out. And the person goes, "Oh, what? That's like that is against every journalistic ethic I have ever had." And they're like, "Well, do it or you'll never work in this town again." And some of them never worked in the town again because they had a backbone and they had ethics and they had, a spine, as we used to call it. No, this continues to be a very, 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 very common problem.
I believe it.
And
I believe it in the sense of, and I mean, you could be, like, as far as like wording and definitions, of course, it does get tricky. Like the word bribe has a specific definition that maybe doesn't necessarily fit in this case, but the whole like, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine down the road kind of a thing. Access journalism, I absolutely believe is a thing. So I do think there is a lot of stuff going on, even if, I trust that, like, I have no reason to doubt that what Alana Pierce is saying in this video, as far as her experience and her opinion on things. Like, I don't think she's being dishonest or anything. Maybe
I don't think so my personal opinion of her is that she's a fairly honest person, and that she's not I don't think that. See, there are some people that just never get the bribe because they know that that person's an honest person. But then there's other people where it's like where a lot of this stuff happened, that I'm keenly aware of, happened when it was like, hey, so and so is like, we have to get this done. Well, can we use regular person A? Well, regular person A is unavailable. So okay, can we do this for regular person B? They're also unavailable. Well, we can't use C because we don't know if they'll take the bribe or not. Well, I guess we'll have to ask them. That's how this stuff usually turned. That's how some of these people were involved, and suddenly we're keyed into the fact that, oh my goodness, I'm surrounded by people who are lying, like nonstop. And the response from most, like the most common response when I kind of press, well, what did they say when you like got upset about it? It's like, dude, this isn't. The response was, quote, dude, this isn't like, asking somebody to take a dive in a national championship. This isn't sweeping chemical poisoning or dumping under the carpet. This is just video games. It's entirely subjective to your opinion. This has been going on in Hollywood for like decades. Get with the program. If you want to move in this industry, you gotta make friends and favors. That was what they were told. And again, with the whole Hollywood thing, that's like, I mean, the fact that some movies get greenlit, let alone get sequels, is like, wait, didn't this movie make zero money? Didn't the movie before that one? I remember there was a chain of movies that were made in like the 90s. Not a single one of them ever made money. How did the guy keep getting work? Like over and over and over again. How did he keep getting work? Well, I guess he just had really good friends, basically. So
does make you scratch your head. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Alana, I don't think Alana is. I don't think she ever really knew about this kind of stuff because, well, I guess it sort of depends too. Because again, big corporation, not always. Sometimes it happens, yeah, but most of the time, again, it's like favors. Like it really is. Like,
sure.
I mean, it's like go to Austin, hang out at when COVID's not like crazy everywhere. You can go to Austin. You can hang out in I mean, any city where there's a lot of gamers, like, or game developers. You go to any city where there's lots of game developers. You hit up the cool spots, and oh hey, look, there's somebody from again, I shouldn't name names. There's a company from big companies that starts with a B. There's somebody from big company that starts with an E. There's somebody from big company that starts with a D. They're all in the same building. So again, that's a reviewer for that website. There's a reviewer for that other website. And that stuff happens. It's not every day, it's not every night, but it's like that stuff happens on the weekend. And it's not, it's not abnormal to see, friends, saying, "Hey, we're working on a great project, really really hope you can come through." And then that taints your view a little bit. And that's really, I think, the vast majority of what most of the gamers see as like, false reporting or like not accurate reviewing, is because if you really like a game and you really 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 want it to do well, we did one last night. I am very excited for Baldur's Gate. I'm very excited for not just Baldur's Gate, but that other one. And you went and changed the title, didn't you? So there's a couple games that I'm excited for, and I want them to do well, and I absolutely look at them in a positive light. But I try to make that very clear. Like, I try to be very very clear when, look, I really like this company and it's doing really well, and I think it deserves it, and all of their good fortune can't happen to a better game developer. We're very upfront about that. And then when there's other games that come out from other places, that's not nearly as much, positivity. Now, unlike the big places, we don't actually do a review scale number. Like, we don't actually have a system for rating reviews. We just talk about the game and then whether or not we generally endorse it or not. And I'll always say, it's like, look, before you get into any game, especially early access, you have to know that you're willing to stick this out through early access. All of the people that went in and jumped in on some of the early access games that have dropped in the last couple of days, one of them has done just horribly. And it's like, you kind of have to know that before going in. Like, if it's an early access, expect it to be it is the de facto, basically, early access is the de facto, hey, help us fix all the broken stuff in the game. That's, for a majority of companies, that is what the concept rolls down to. And unfortunately, that's really not, that's not something that we should be encouraging. But game studios have figured out that they can monetize that process of the game. And in some cases, it's very positive for them. Larian Studios has proven that early access can be incredibly positive and incredibly healthy for your company and for your game. Absolutely, hands down, they've proven this. But not everybody can do that same thing, and therefore it kind of falls apart really fast. And we've seen that here with one of the games that launched, which was previously very highly anticipated, but it turns out the game is way behind in progress, and it's going to be a rough couple of months. Probably. Well, it's definitely been a rough week, but it's going to be an even rougher next month or two, because of all the stuff that they have to completely re-overhaul. And that means that you're going to be logging in and you're going to suddenly find that the way that you've been doing stuff is suddenly poof, gone. And that's not, and that's bad. That's bad for your company if your company has brought in a bunch of people who are expecting a polished game. It's like, we need to stop expecting polished games when they're in early access. But that alone, you look at that, if you're positive about the game, you'll have positive experience from it. Well, it's just the bugs, they're working on it, they'll get through. But if you dislike the game, or if you dislike the company, or if you feel that you've been slighted, then you'll get these comments like the one who's like, "This is the most garbage company I've ever had. I hate them. I hope they all burn." And it's just the vitriol is just so strong. It's like, dude, relax. It's just a game, and in that respect, it is just a game. But unfortunately, you turn around and when people are now doing this for favors, yes, absolutely, 100%. A lot of these reviews, especially the reviews calling this the greatest game ever of all time. What is that?
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow. We will have a video coming out tomorrow addressing a lot of this.
Yeah.
But I think this kind of plays into...
Just the greatest game I think ever made is probably Mario, like the original Mario, because it rejuvenated the games industry, which at that point was basically dead. Like this really did resurrect. So effect and the impact, you kind of, if you're measuring that, like that's going to be one of the biggest things ever.
Yeah. So actually, do if you're interested, yeah, we have a video coming out tomorrow, and it is going to
check it out.
As part of it, it's going to list some of the other games that have gotten a 96 score on Metacritic, and some that got more than 96 on Metacritic. And when you kind of look at the category of those games and put them next to Last of Us Part 2, it's kind of, how does this even work? How does this even happen? But anyway, one final thing Alana said that I thought was really interesting, we'll just end on this note, is that she does believe that games journalists typically get into a routine where they write more for their peers than for the audience that's actually reading their work, like the average gamer. So that's an interesting perspective, and I'm going to be keeping that in mind when I read games journalism going forward.
So my Discord completely dropped off right as you said we're going to cover this one more thing, and then my Discord just died. I'm looking at it, I'm like,
oh well. I think I covered it, so we'll just.
All right. Well, I will say that is an an exceptionally brilliant point, and definitely a 9 out of 10.
Sure.
Because you're my buddy. See how that works? That can affect how things happen, right? Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So
I think it's the universe telling us it's time to move on, though. I do want to read this comment from Cupcake6. Hey man, I love your videos. Also, do you still make Dishonored videos? I love those. Keep up the great work. I haven't made a Dishonored video in a very long time, just because the game's a couple years old now, and there's a lot more to cover. But man, I'd love to get back into that game in the future. If there's any other games you'd like to see,
you should do a lore synopsis of that game in your Vesper voice. That would be
yeah.
That would be really good. We might work on that stuff. Yeah, we really like a lot of the older games, but we have to be careful when we're doing some videos. Some of those like look-see back videos do very well. Most of them don't, and so it's a little tough. And man, the YouTube algorithm game recently has been really rough, and it's about to get a whole lot rougher. Heads up, everybody. Stuff's incoming.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's start talking about upcoming games. So, of course, tons of them have been announced in what was going to be our top story today until Cyberpunk stuff happened. Mafia Definitive Edition. A lot of you have been interested in this one. A lot of you have been asking for our take on it. And so we did get a cinematic trailer this week. And you know what? It looks really good. And I went back and watched some gameplay from the the original version of it. And looking at that, kind of picturing it brought into modern era graphics and gameplay, I think it looks like it could be really phenomenal. It's apparently a from the ground up rebuild of the game. So they've recreated everything from the ground up, basically. So it's not just kind of a graphical update. They've added stuff. Mm-hmm. Now one thing we didn't see was gameplay, and this was really interesting because by all accounts, by all evidence that is currently available, we were supposed to see gameplay for Mafia Definitive Edition on Monday as part of the IGN Expo day number 4. And that night, I was chatting with some of our members in one of the voice channels on our Discord server, and somebody mentioned to me that there was no Mafia gameplay. So I went back and looked. I'm like, okay, my summary that I had put in our schedule on the Discord server does say gameplay for Mafia Definitive Edition. I went back and now I had gotten that info from a Reddit post that had summarized the IGN Expo schedule, but then I went back and looked at the IGN Expo schedule, and Mafia Definitive Edition was no longer there. But even more so, there's other people on Reddit talking about this and how it was anticipated that we were supposed to see gameplay for this game on Monday, June 15th. But at some point it was removed from the schedule, and it's not there anymore. And we did not see Mafia Definitive Edition gameplay. So this is really interesting, and we don't entirely know what it means. Does it mean that the game's in trouble? Does it mean that, was there some other reason for it? Was it a mistake that it was included to begin with? We just don't know at this point. I'm going to be very curious to find out if any more information comes out about it. The game is supposed to be coming out in August, so you'd think that they would have some gameplay to show us by this point, wouldn't you, Cyb? Do you have any insight on this for us?
No, actually, I tried digging. I just didn't have the time today. I mean, it could be as minimal as there was a technical hiccup that they basically pulled out at the last second. Could also be a number of other minor issues. So something that typically happens when they're doing big premieres and stuff like that is they send the stuff via courier. So they don't hey, we're gonna just upload this file to to a random file hosting site, send you the key, and hope that you're the only one who's downloaded this. I mean, this has happened numerous times before, and it may have been a way that some of the more recent prominent leaks and over the last year or two has actually happened, has been digital. What was supposed to be a secure transmission turned out to not be a secure transmission. There's been several stories where this has been the case. So often, a lot of these companies are opting for sending a digital file via courier. Now, most of the time, this is a really good way to go, but it depends the courier you're sending it through. Sometimes you send it through a not great courier and it doesn't get there on time. Sometimes it gets lost and you don't have a backup copy. As a quick example, I remember a scenario where, we'll call him Sarge, was hey, need to get this very valuable piece of data finished and then ready to go for submission to, we'll call him the chief. So Sarge, works for weeks on this, gets the package ready, packages it all up, puts it in the secure thing, closes the case, is all right, the data pack is ready to go, and I am going on my vacation. I am not bringing my phone. So if anything happens, you can tell the chief that I am on vacation, I am fishing, and I am not bringing my phone. I am up in a cabin in the woods, and nobody knows where or how to find me. And then Sarge takes off. Courier shows up to take the thing to the chief and says, I'm here to pick up the thing for the chief. And the guy goes, okay, here you go. Don't lose it. It's our only copy. As soon as we finished the thing, we had to destroy everything. It's all being shredded right now. So this is the only copy. You understand? Yes, sir, I understand. And then Courier is on his way to the chief, and he decides, you know what? There's a really cool hockey game on tonight, and I happen to be in the city in which it's playing. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to that game because you know what? Joe just called and Joey Bag of Donuts said that he's got an extra ticket. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. I'm just going to leave this briefcase in my car while I go into the hockey game. I'm not kidding. This has happened before. And they go into the hockey game. Obviously, that wasn't what they were watching. I mean, who goes to watch a hockey game, really? So they go, come back, car's broken into. Guess what? Guess what's gone and can't be remade for another, month because Sarge is on a vacation. And the chief is really angry about this. And this has happened numerous times before. So let's assume that it's probably not a malicious thing. Let's assume that maybe just an accident, and or something got in the way. And I would probably hazard a guess that what they thought was going to be ready on time wasn't ready on time, because they have to have the stuff, ready and submitted by, a certain time, and that date got missed for whatever reason. So that's probably the most likely. Although the story that I was telling, that would be far more entertaining now, wouldn't it?
It would be. It would be more entertaining if I knew what the hell you were talking about. But, yeah. Like, don't even know what industry you're referring to. But anyway, in any case, what's interesting to me, though, is that, I mean, even if it was like a courier shipment that got lost or something, like the footage, the gameplay has not appeared anywhere else online. Like, so either they just decided, okay, we're not putting this out right now, or it's like if it had just gotten lost, you'd think they'd maybe put it out on their own YouTube channel or something. Right. Just like, oh, by the way, this reminds me, this wasn't shown at the IGN showcase, but IGN, in the middle of one of their days of doing a showcase, they put up a trailer for the new Paper Mario, the Origami King. I have to say, it looks kind of amazing.
I mean, Paper Mario is one of the, I think it's a solid RPG, and I really wonder why on earth they never continued to make more.
Well, they have.
Really, really. Well, I mean,
There's a new one coming out.
More between that. That was ages ago. This is like, this is how many years? Okay, I gotta figure out how many.
Well, I don't know, but there's been several. There's been, since the first one, there's been at least 2 more, maybe 3. But the new one, the Origami King, looks it looks fantastic. It looks more 3D-ish than the previous entries, and the combat is really, really unique. So, yeah, I'm fascinated to check that one out. Be another great game to play through with the kids when that comes out. All right, let's talk about some of the other games that you guys were interested in. So, Mafia Definitive Edition, if you're interested in that one, launches August 28th, 2020. So you'll be able to check that out. I know quite a few of you were interested in that one. Hopefully we see some gameplay soon. Evil Genius 2, a game I hadn't paid much attention to, but I watched the trailer for it just this week, and this game, I have to say, I'm impressed. I'm not much for management sims personally, although I did used to love SimCity. But this one looks, it just looks pretty fantastic. I love the so there's a bunch of things you do in the game. So you build an evil lair, and then you populate it with minions, and then you send minions out to, do evil schemes, and then you also recruit like special units that are like special characters that do stuff. You have to like eliminate secret agents, which is hilarious. They showed some scenes of that. Them getting caught and killed by traps in your lair and whatnot. It was a little confusing, like how it all fits together. So I'm curious to see more gameplay on that. But just the design, like you can build these massive layers, and you can build them in layers. So let's layer like LAIR, like your evil layer. But then there's different layers of layer, if you know what I mean. LAYER. So, yeah, it was quite interesting. It was quite interesting. I was quite impressed with it. Now, they showed during the segment then where they were showing you sending minions out. They had some of your minions getting into a helicopter and taking off, but then the helicopter landed back on the same helipad, like at your evil base, and then it showed your minion like stealing a powerful sword or something. So I was very confused about what was going on. I don't know if you're going to be actually transporting to special locations where you have to accomplish missions or something like that, or if you just send them out and then they come back with whatever whatever you sent them out for. A little confused about that. Also a little confused about the secret agents. Do they infiltrate your base? Is this like, do you have like tour groups coming through and there's like secret agents coming in with them, or like how does it work? Or do they like pose as employees of your evil empire? Anyway, Shua, that was not a dad joke. That was legitimate. That was legitimate. Layer. How do you describe that? You're building a layer in layers without. That was not an intentional wordplay. Dad jokes. Accusing me of telling dad jokes. I tell funny jokes. Anyway, sorry, got sidetracked there. So, yeah, maybe the secret agents are posing as employees. But anyway, in the end, your end game seems to be world domination. But anyway, it looks like as far as these kind of management sims go, it looks like a super fun one. So definitely would recommend checking that out if that's the kind of game you're into. And also, yeah, looks very funny as well. All right. So, some other games that you were interested in. So we got Solaria Crown of the Magister, which is another turn-based D&D based sort of tactical RPG that is coming out now. This one seems to be, I don't know. It seems like bad timing for this one because it kind of just what we've seen of it so far, put up next to Baldur's Gate 3, just kind of doesn't look at nearly as impressive.
Well, I mean, there's no release date for this,
so yeah, fair enough. But
like there's a demo, and I'm gonna enjoy going through the demo, but I suspect very strongly that this thing's gonna probably wait until I would imagine they're probably gonna approach this one as like waiting until like it's a totally finished product, and then putting it out. The combat system is a little bit different. It's all built on the same rules basically, and I'm actually like I'm hoping to get both of these. Like I really am planning on getting both of these because this is the type of game that I want to encourage to be out there more. Is the deeper strategy like combat stuff, and yeah, I mean, see, because there's other ways that we can kind of like grow on this. Like I'm a big fan of turn-based, but some turn-based stuff I don't necessarily like because it's like haha, now it's my turn and I'm going to I'm going to teleport over to where you are at, and then I'm going to set up this gigantic chain of events, and I'm going to pull out 30 barrels from my pocket, and it's like some of that stuff gets a little ridiculous. Like, I mean, a little crazy ridiculous, especially when you can kind of like cheat the system. You can have Joey Bag of Donuts run forward, gets into combat with the enemy, and then you tab over to another character who's not in combat. You build a gigantic pyramid of fire barrels. Then you you go back to Joey who's in combat, who's like these two have been frozen in time while you're off to the side building this pyramid of like explosive barrels, and then like Joey runs up, pushes the guy towards the barrels, and then that triggers somebody else who fires an arrow shot into the barrels, and then there's this gigantic nuke and it goes off, and then you win. It's like some of that stuff I don't necessarily like, and I would like to see the system overall be like expanded upon and like brought together. I'd like to see more things that are kind of like where it's almost like second by second. It's like you get 2 seconds and they get 2.
I think we lost Cyb again. That's unfortunate. All right. Anyway, the Solasta is built on, like Baldur's Gate 3. Solasta is built on the D&D system. It's built on the SRD 5.1 rule set, and it apparently recreates that very faithfully. You can build a party of 4 heroes, picking their race, class, and stats. So it sounds like mostly custom characters. If you do want to check it out, or maybe if you're looking forward to Baldur's Gate 3 and are looking for something to play in the meantime, you can check out this. They have a demo out right now as part of the Steam Game Festival.
How long was I out?
Like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds.
Oh,
There,
okay.
there's
Yeah,
also
so I just to reiterate, basically it's like I want more turn-based games to do well so that I can have more fun with more turn-based games that push the envelope.
yeah, fair
So,
enough. And
yeah.
there's nothing to say like that. This is don't misinterpret my earlier comments as saying I think this will be a bad game. I feel like it's going to. I think it's going to be greatly overshadowed by Baldur's Gate 3. But if it
Yeah.
comes out a little ways down the road and they make a lot more improvements to it, then I mean perhaps it'll be on the same level. But anyway, something worth checking out. But also another turn-based game that currently has a limited time demo available on Steam. The Steam Game Festival is happening right now, so you can check that out. And there's all kinds of games that are being given limited time demos. So the Steam Festival goes till, I'm just looking up how long it goes. But anyway, Project Haven is another tactical RPG, turn-based. It's not based on D&D. It's a sci-fi setting. And I watched some gameplay for it, and it looked interesting. It looked pretty good. So,
Sorry, did you say Project Haven or Haven?
Project Haven. So there's
sure
the
the
demo
same game?
contains 3 playable missions from the story and what the developer calls a glimpse of Project Haven's 4-player online co-op mode. So it's going to have a multiplayer element as well. So anyway, yeah, if you want a more sci-fi sort of RPG turn-based experience, you can check that one out. And by the way, the Steam Festival, which began yesterday, Tuesday, June 16th, continues through June 22nd. All right, some other stuff that we saw this week. We saw some more gameplay, and we got some info about New World from Amazon Game Studios. It's an MMO, that's for sure. And quite honestly, I don't know how much you saw of this side, but it did not look like anything special to me. In fact, with the amount of money that's behind this game, it looked kind of pathetic. And it's supposed to be coming out pretty quick. It's supposed to be coming out August 25th. So, do you have any opinions about that one you want to share?
Sorry, what was it called again?
New World, the Amazon game.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. So this one, yeah. I mean, as we get closer to it, I'm more and more disinclined to think that it's going to make a success because the hype isn't there. They like, I don't know. They just haven't been getting there with this. So it's kind of like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think this is going to do. I don't think this one's going to do very well. I think they've kind of doubled down too much on the PvP, and which is fine. I mean, good PvP is a must, but you can't let the rest of the world go to waste because you just don't have it's just really stupid to just do that.
Yeah, the trailer that they put out just recently was a combat trailer, and it just wasn't appealing. It's like show us the world, show us what this game is all about.
There's not too much of a world to have, unfortunately. It's like, and it's like, so part of the problem is with MMOs is that they try to do everything at once. They try to like come up with groundbreaking PvP, and then they end up having to sacrifice the world because of it. Or they have to end up sacrificing some other aspect of the game because they're trying to chase this one thing. Or they do the reverse and they chase PvE and then they don't add any like balance to anything, and it's like it's completely broken. You have to have both, and you don't have to have like this. This is the thing that's like it absolutely like infuriates me is like for some reason we've been stuck with this concept of like you forcing people to spend 40 hours getting to the end game. Like, to which then the game is you spend the rest of the time in the game. It's like I really think that they can cut down on that. They don't have to add a full-fledged like super mega PvP system. You just have to make the PvP fun. Start with a simple mode or two, and then kind of like put the game out and then build it from there, and like kind of cater to what your players want, as long as you can kind of nail it, because there's lots of MMOs that come out they're just not satisfying in anything, and or they're a one trick pony, and then they don't last. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of interested to hop in and take a look at it, but I am at this point I am no longer getting it day one, basically.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It doesn't look interesting to me. If I was going to get into an MMO, I feel like there are so many others that look so much more interesting, and I'm being incredibly harsh with it because this is Amazon. Now, granted, they don't have an experienced studio.
Mm-hmm.
They may have experienced people working on the game, but it's not an experienced studio. But with the kind of money that Amazon can afford to put behind a project like this, it just did not. I was not impressed, and I should at least be visually impressed by what I'm seeing. But I was not even visually impressed. The combat animations looked jerky and not good to me.
Yeah. So just kind of so there are two Haven games. The one that you mentioned, so Project Haven is a game. It's kind of a turn-based game, as is another game called Haven, which is also out. Yeah. That's why I was confused, because both of them also had demos that were dropped like yesterday.
So what's the other one? What is Haven about?
So Haven is it's this really trippy combination of like a narrative story game where you've got two characters, and they basically it's like a romantic novel type game, and it kind of plays as that, but then it also has like turn-based mechanics, and there's an awesome really, really cool flight sim, or not flight sim, travel simulator kind of thing, and that's really good too. And the couple is, to be honest, the couple's pretty adorable. So
I think I know the one you're talking about. I think I do remember seeing a trailer for that one. Yeah. So Haven, not to be confused with Project Haven, which is the futuristic turn-based one I was talking about as well. So there's turn-based demos you can check out if that's your kind of game you want to check.
And then there's another sci-fi turn-based game that's called Destiny's Sword, which also just came out. Like, my goodness, everything is just coming out all at once.
Oh, there's so much right now. It's insane. There's
like
it's like I was describing it to somebody who doesn't work in our industry but knows what E3 is, and they were asking me how things were going. I was like, it's like E3 exploded and the debris went all across June, July, and August.
Yeah.
And
it's
we're talking
crazy,
like the guts,
right now.
The stuff that you don't normally see, that's just like out for everyone to see now. And there's just so much going on. It's impossible to cover it all. But anyway, we are running short on time, so let's just talk about a couple more games here. I checked out Gloomwood because it looked interesting, and it looks like it's trying to be kind of a spiritual successor to the original Thief, not like the 2014, I believe, remake of Thief. I'm talking about 1998 Thief, one of the most groundbreaking games of all time. That game was way ahead of its time in terms of some of the stuff that it was able to implement in the game with lighting and shadow and enemy AI and all sorts of things. Level design, character mechanics was groundbreaking. So this game, Gloomwood, looked like it was trying to sort of capture that feel. And, it's made in a retro-style 3D graphics, and it is a first-person sneaker, kind of sneak around stealing things kind of game, or, with your Assassin's Blade kind of a thing. But was disappointed in the demo that I played. I played it on the Discord server, streamed it out with a few of you watching. So, those who watched are familiar, but I like what they're going for. Wasn't impressed with it. Like, it's not that I had a bad time playing it, but I was like, well, what's compelling me to play more? Because it's lacking a lot of the mechanics, or analogs to the mechanics that were part of the original Thief. Like, one of the biggest mechanics in that game was the ability to manipulate lights. You had your fire arrows and your water arrows, and you could extinguish lights or light them if you wanted to. But you could extinguish lights to remain in shadow so that the enemies couldn't see you. That's completely absent from Gloomwood. And the enemy AI was just bizarre now. I realized it was a demo, the game's not out yet, and I've actually been meaning to get in touch with the devs to ask a few questions about it. I know there is going to be more in the final game, but not sure if there's going to be enough more to make me actually interested in playing it.
I've got to say, like, I just did a quick count. There are dozens upon dozens of demos out.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's so much.
Like, I didn't realize that this event was like, basically it's there are dozens upon dozens of demos. Like, wow. So yeah, like, holy crap.
Absolutely. Not to mention the game announcements and all of the other news that's dropped. One final game I wanted to talk about. We've talked about this one before, but I wanted to talk about Mortal Shell because it seems to be one. There's a lot of interest for this one. I'm personally interested in it as well. Sadly, yeah, it's a timed Epic exclusive, so it'll be at least a year after release until I play it. It is on consoles. If you're a console gamer, it's coming out at the same time as on the Epic Store. The trailers look really good, but they screwed up at the PC Game Show. They showed a gameplay demo that was boring, clunky looking. It was not good optics. Now, here's hoping this was just a bad sample of the gameplay. But it was not impressive. It's like the first, I think it's one of the first battles you get into, so I think it is slower paced and maybe part of a tutorial. But it was not impressive, which is too bad because the premise and what I've seen of characters and stuff and what I've seen of the combat in their other trailers has looked really good, looked really appealing to me. So it was disappointing that we didn't see some better gameplay. But it was clearly not done baking yet. I mean, there were barely even any water effects. Like there's a point where a giant fish-like creature swims up to you in the water. You see its back arching out of the water, but it just pops out from the water surface and goes back down. There's no splash effects or anything. So I felt like I was watching like early alpha footage. So that's disappointing. Do you remember off the top of your head what the release date is for that one?
Not really, no. Not off the top of my head.
So yeah, here's hoping that in its final form, it's going to look a lot better than that. All right, I feel like I should look that up, so I'm not ending the game on, or ending the podcast on a. Okay. Steam just says 2021. So what's the actual release date? Mortal Shell release date. The beta begins July 3rd. Oh, that's what. They don't actually have an announced release date yet, do they? Sometime in the third quarter of 2020. Okay, there we go. That's why I couldn't remember the release date. They haven't announced it yet. All right, Robin Green's wondering, are you guys doing a Baldur's Gate 3 video or stream tomorrow? Yes. What form that will exactly take?
Yeah, we don't know.
I can't say right at this second. Yeah, so keep your eye on the Discord server. We will announce that absolutely as soon as possible.
I am going in for my final upgrade in the last chain of upgrades that I've had to my dental regions. So hopefully I will be back in time for that, but I suspect I'm probably going to miss the live showcase of that, but we'll see.
We are definitely going to do something for it. As far as restreaming it live, there's always issues with that, so we have to look into that some more. But at very least, we'll do a live watch with you guys on our Discord server. We have a summer 2020 events area there. We have a watch together voice room. We've been watching a lot of the online showcases together there with folks from our community, and it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. So at absolute minimum, you'll catch me there tomorrow in the watch together room to watch the Baldur's Gate 3 gameplay, and then we'll follow it up with more info as when Cyb and I have a chance to sit down and kind of do a breakdown of it. But if it turns out, like, if we get word back that we can restream it, then we'll probably restream it. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show for today, so thank you so much. And by the way, on that note of everything I just talked about, please check out the Discord server. Find an invite in the description below. It's a great place where you can talk with us and other community members, and stay up to date about what we're doing here at the Triple S League, collaborate with people on stuff, find people to game with. There's all kinds of fun stuff going on there. Click the link below to join. Be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. And thank you also, everybody, for supporting the show by watching live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. We really appreciate that. Leave comments below if you're watching after the fact. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, all the YouTube things to keep the algorithm happy. We appreciate all of it, and I also want to extend a very special thank you to our big dang heroes on Patreon, Robin, Shua82, Timebean, Schoolaman, and our 2 anonymous supporters there. Our channel members on YouTube, Mr. Pazdernik, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, Terror K, and Somnolence. Thank you all so much. Your support means a lot to us, and it helps us practically as well, so that we really thank you a lot for that. All right, the Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cyb, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.